Today I'm going to be cooking a pan-seared T-bone steak with a charred scallion relish. This is one of the recipes we came up with here in the test kitchen. It's pretty easy to make but packs a ton of flavor. I selected the T-bone out of the Meatogo CAB beef set. First thing I'm going to do is start with liberally seasoning my steak. I love cooking with certified Angus beef because of the quality and the generous amounts of marbling. That's really going to ensure a juicy and tasty steak every time. And I like to hit it with a lot of salt. Salt's really what makes all that flavor out of that steak pop. And I also like to use a variety of peppercorns freshly ground out of my grinder here because it really just gives it so much of that nice spicy peppery flavor. Okay, flip. And I want to make sure to season both sides really well. All right, now I'll kick my pan onto high and we'll get to searing. All right, I got a little smoke coming out of my pan now, so I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of canola oil, and then I'm gonna go in with my steak. The first thing, I'm gonna take the side, give it a little sear. I wanna start rendering down some of that fat from the side of the steak and use that as well to cook it. So, get a little bit of that searing, rendering down. Okay. Now I'll spread out that oil and get it in the pan. So I'm just doing a pan sear technique on this, and then I'm gonna baste it with a whole bunch of butter because this is my favorite way to cook a steak, and it works for just about every steak. So I'm gonna give this guy a quick flip, and then I'll continue to flip this steak multiple times throughout the cooking. That way I get a perfectly even doneness all the way through. Now I'm gonna go in with my butter. And then I'm gonna start to butter baste this steak. The beautiful part about butter basting, it helps you create a crust and brings in a nice amount of flavor to this dish. So this will help cook it through nice and even and bring a little buttery richness to the steak and keep that crust just getting nice and firm on the outside of the steak. Do it on this second side here again. See that beautiful crust. That's really what I'm going for here. So I like my steaks on a good medium rare, even to a little rare. So I'm gonna hold it at 46 degrees Celsius, get it off the heat to let it rest before I start making the rest of my dish here. Now I'm gonna wipe this pan clean so I can toast my walnuts and char my scallions for medium-high heat. Now we go in with the walnuts. Just gonna give those a nice light toast. All right, now that these are toasted a little bit, I'm gonna get them into a bowl. And while they're good and hot, I'm gonna go right over top with some microplaned garlic. Because I don't really want to cook this garlic. I'm just trying to use the heat from the walnuts to wake up the oils and the flavor in the garlic without fully cooking the garlic. So just give it that nice fresh garlic flavor. Get that back over a high heat. And I've got one bunch of scallions that I've washed and dried thoroughly. They'll just go right into the pan. And I'm just trying to get, here kind of start to crack and sizzle. I'm just trying to get an actual char on there, a little bit of blackening, develop a little bit of flavor, and wilt them just enough so I can chop them up nicely to put into this relish. Now I'm gonna give them a flip, start to develop some color, soften up a little bit on that first side. Yeah. See that little bit of char goes a long way. It adds a ton of flavor to green onions. All right, now these can come off. I'm gonna let them cool down for just a minute before I start to slice them up. And then we'll go into our walnuts with the rest of the ingredients. So here we've got some nice extra virgin olive oil, which will give it a little bit of fat, a little bit of unctuousness, and that nice olive oil flavor. And then I also have some Cornichon. which for those of you unfamiliar, Cornichon is kind of like a sour, spicy, tiny pickle. Very common in like French cuisine, but they're my favorite, so that'll give it a little bit of acid and a little bit of extra flavor. We've got some Dijon mustard. And finally, a little bit of sherry vinegar, because a little bit of acid with a steak just will cut through that delicious richness that the marbling provides. So I'll just give that a mix. And I'll hit it with just a touch of salt, a little bit of fresh pepper. Add just a couple minutes to cool down. Just want to make sure that they weren't too hot to touch here. So I'm going to cut these just on a rough chop on a bias. I'll even give this just a pass through one more time. Okay. And this will all go right in to the bowl. And we'll mix that together. And that's what's going to be our sauce, the scallion relish. Now the steak's had a little time to rest, so we'll get this sliced up and plate everything up. So before I slice this up and plate it, I'm going to put some of the scallion relish right onto the plate, because that's going to act as my sauce or my condiment to go with this delicious steak that I just know is going to be so fantastic because it's so well marbled, and I just know it'll be so juicy. So let's see. Go in. I'm going to cut off this fillet first, and then I will cut my strip side. Okay. And then we'll go right here, because I always think the bone looks cool, so you got to show the bone. I'm going to hit it with some fancy flaky salt right on top of those steaks. That's what's beautiful about a T-bone, is you get two steaks in one, two tender and juicy, luxurious steaks. Such high quality beef and so easy to cook because of that marbling. Remember to get it from the Meatogo CAB beef set and try some other cuts of this high quality beef. This is available for a limited time, so go out and get it right away from Pricerite before the sale ends.